Across the globe, communities are celebrating International Women's Day, honoring the achievements, resilience, and contribution of women in every sphere of life. With this year's theme focused on Accelerate Action, voices are rising to demand equality, recognition, and action for women's rights in a world still striving for gender parity. Well, thanks for staying with us. As we celebrate International Women's Day today, we take a moment to honor the incredible contributions of women who have shaped our history and our future. For over 35 years, Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Social Services, Information and Broadcasting, Phedra Rahming-Turnquest has been a trailblazer in government, navigating the challenges and triumphs of a career that has not only shaped the public policy, but also broken barriers for women in leadership. Today, she reflects on her journey, the obstacles she overcame, and the advice she has for the next generation of women leaders. Welcome to the show, Phedra.
Thank you for having me.
Well, first off, congratulations on an incredible 35-year career in government. Can you share a bit about your journey and how you first got involved in the public service?
Well, I've actually been in the public service a bit over 35 years, joining in 1988. I was a graduate at the time, and I was a bonded scholar. I had a scholarship to go abroad. And so naturally, you were expected to repay by working for your country. And that I did. I was picked up by the Ministry of Housing and National Insurance. So I had the privilege of working with the Honorable George Mackey as my very first minister, and also Mrs. Vilma.
That sounds really good. And so what were some of the most significant changes you have seen in government and in your workplace culture over the years?
For me, I would speak from the perspective of the work that I did, where I spent a significant period of time working on women's issues from 1993, and that period spanned over, I think, 15 years of my career. And so I was saturated in that. So everything I do now, I find that I can't take off the gender lens. And it comes about by being aware and having promoted so much of it throughout your career. And I like to see that a number of permanent secretaries, when you look in government alone, you tend to see a lot of female leadership, and that's one of the places that you see it. But in the private sector, I'm not so certain that the parity is there. It's catching up. But for me, that is something that I love to see, the change there. I love to see that we continue to inject new, innovative ideas and to approach things differently, that successive administrations have been willing to help officers to gain training. The processes that we've used in years of past, they've been changing, and so there is an effort to keep up with modern trending. And so I am pleased to be a part of that entity. I always tell people I enjoy being a public officer because by nature, people will tell you I enjoy helping others. And so for me, I've always enjoyed it. And so to see those changes over the years, others would probably take it for granted, the ones who are coming now, but you know, it hasn't always been that way, but the culture, the environment is changed.
It makes a lot of sense. So what does International Women's Day mean to you personally, and how do you hope that the celebration will inspire future generations of women?
For me, while the focus seems to always be on women in leadership roles, I love to look at the unsung heroes, the ones that are not recognized. And if you Google sometimes International Women's Day, it'll say those women, ordinary women who are doing extraordinary things. You know, the mother that consistently makes the dollar stretch for her family, the mother who is maybe still very much a part of a marriage, but she has a child abroad in school, and she knows how to manage work and home, balancing both in a world where we are expected to be a particular stereotype is often difficult. And when I look at the ones who are walking the streets and managing it with the little ones, one in the hand and one, sometimes you're pregnant, And I wonder, how do they make it? For the grandmother who continues to keep the food on the table as a supportive role in the family nurturing, those are the ones that I would love to always think about. And you reflect on your own family experiences of the village. And so the women of the village, those are the ones that I would love to honor and I recognize on that day.
Awesome. And I know that the 69th session of the Commission on the Status of Women is significant as it marks the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. Now, I know you and your team will be attending. Tell us, what does this milestone mean to you personally and professionally, since you have spent a greater part of your career working on this issue?
For us, it's Beijing 30th anniversary, yes. The 69th session, and they're looking at a review of what would have happened and that would have been adopted. So you're looking at the Beijing Platform for Action, as we call it, the declaration. The platform had many areas that they suggested we look at as governments to improve the status of your women, to bring about gender equality. And so in 1995, we had a delegation that went into Beijing. I am pleased to report that I was a part of that delegation. The Honorable Janet Bostwick actually led the delegation at that time. And there were a number of us who went there. She delivered quite a stirring remark, and I can still remember her going back to Beijing +5 and doing the same thing. But we, as a country, are going to share some of what we've been doing. Over the years, when we've done it, we've told them that we've been making steady progress. And I think that the report is going to be no different. We continue to make progress. And the progress is not just to say this is being made by one administration. No, it is successive administrations have regarded it as a priority. And so at this point, you see that things are happening consistently. Now, whether people take it for granted that some of the measures are in place, they probably do at this point, because they can't imagine what it was. If you're only 27, you wouldn't be thinking about the fact that maternity leave may have been less back in the day, but you have a child now. So we don't look at things necessarily in retrospect to be investigative, but there has been progress. And so for me, it's exciting to, 30 years later, to be a part of that delegation yet again, because when I went, I was new to the department and had spent a lot of time in the preparatory stage doing the research and working with Dr. Pandora Johnson and the team at then COB Research Unit, and going to different meetings with my supervisor at the time, who was Mrs. Cora Bain Colebrook, and she was the officer that actually started the Women's Desk.
Well, thank you so much. It's been very pleasant chatting with you this afternoon, and continue to be impactful in your career wherever it takes you. But safe travels definitely on the weekend.
I thank you for having me.
Well, there is so much more on the other side of the break.